Hi, welcome back. So today we want to talk about masculinity and long hair. We have done some research and have found that there were studies done within the government where they found that the Native Americans who had long hair naturally were really excellent trackers. And when they recruited them into the military around the Vietnam War era, they were like, all right, well, you have to cut your hair. And they did. And suddenly they were not nearly as intuitive. And
they lost a lot of their tracking abilities.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, well, that's interesting. And we're like, oh, maybe there's more to hair. And we kind of let it go. And then Ian, we're like, why don't you grow your hair out? And so he's like, okay. But before, when he had short hair, I've always been very intuitive and I've always been very telepathic, and I would just naturally be, I guess, thinking I'm talking to him. That's just kind of how I've always been. And he would always,
There'd be a lot of half sentences. Like, the... and I'd be like, the what? But after I started growing my hair out, I did become a lot more intuitive, and I would just know what she was trying to say, and the words that didn't come out verbally would just be known. It's actually pretty cool and a very handy feature for a marriage.
Well, certainly, because it was a spot of frustration because I kept thinking I was saying things. I didn't think it was unsaid. And he was, very, frustrated, but it was just this really miraculous thing that we realized when we, looked back at that article or those studies and realized, well, maybe there is something to that. And so he's continued to grow his hair out, and the intuitiveness and the telepathy has just always gotten stronger. And so now that's not a issue really at all for us. He always just seems to know now what I'm really meaning to say, and that's a lot, a big relief for me as well.
For both of us, for sure.
But one of the other aspects we wanted to discuss is regarding the masculinity of long hair, and in our culture, it's not always as well as accepted or
certainly better than it was in the 60s when, there's a lot of discrimination with people who had long hair. It's way better these days, and it seems to be coming to be more of a thing. And what's interesting is that it seems like we've been kind of programmed to not have the desire to have long hair, us men. Look at the the Hollywood industry, the movie industry. Like people like Loki have long hair. He's a villain. And if you watch National Treasure, that guy, the supervillain guy, or supervillain, I don't mean supervillain. The remember his name?
No.
Anyway,
that guy Ian?
I hope not.
If you're saying National Treasure, it was Ian.
Okay, so that guy also had long, greasy hair. And I think there are other examples too that I can't think of right now, but very few superheroes actually had the long hair other than, Thor, but everyone else like Captain America, Spider-Man, and just think of, American superheroes. Batman. They typically have the short hair. Superman. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of a program thing.
Yeah, well, I also would like your opinion as, a male who's growing his hair out and who used to be really into the old paradigm of have to have, the short hair, we have to have the car, we have to have this and all that. And growing your hair out, what was one of the challenges of growing your hair out that you overcame?
Not knowing what to do with it. I had no idea. I've never had long hair before, and actually I couldn't even grow long hair because my nutrition was so darn poor. I used to eat chips and soda as my 3-course meal when I was a teenager, and it would make my skin gray, and it took me years of right proper nutrition to actually have healthy hair. So the main challenge was, what do I do with all this hair that's in my face? Oh my God, it's in my mouth. I got to get it out. So,
but there was one more. It was about you. One of the things that the Native Americans did, and I always found it was masculine and feminine, was hair braiding.
Oh, right, the braiding. So that's what eventually got it out of my face. She could do French braiding, and I really enjoy it. It's actually kind of a nice bonding experience for the both of us. And in exchange for her doing my hair, I'll give her a quick foot massage, which, the whole energetic exchange, complete that circle. And it's been great. I really like it. And it just stays up and out of my way, and she likes it.
What would you say was I know that this was a spot of turmoil for you, actually accepting the braids. And I think that, again, was this cultural paradigm about men and, how women are the ones with the braids. And just being able to reabsorb that a lot of things were actually, for men and for women, not just for women or not just for men.
Yeah, well, look at the Victorian era. Men back in that time, they used to have long hair, and they would even put bows in their hair. It's all just part of culture, and it's, culture is just what other people think is right. Just do what you think is right, and do what you feel good about.
How would you say that the long hair has impacted your masculinity and your femininity? It's because we are all both masculine and feminine. How would you say that the long hair versus the short hair have either one impacted each?
The short hair kind of feels like it's too, I want to say, like, on an arrogant level. For me, personally, it was about, maybe not arrogant, hold on, that's not the right word, superficial. That's the right word. It felt more superficial than anything, because I had to have it just right, and I needed the right product, and I had to wash it at a certain time, and it was more work than long hair. It just didn't need to be that way.
And how about long hair? How do you feel that, because there's definitely a big difference that I've noticed. With short hair, there was a lot more anal behavior, whereas with the short hair, there's a lot more laid back behavior.
Yeah, well, I feel more connected, pretty much more connected to everything, more connected to myself, more connected to you, and more connected to Earth. It just feels like the more natural thing to do.
Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Sure.
So, if you feel called to have longer hair, we'd always be really interested to see, does your intuition, spike, or do you feel more grounded, or do you feel more connected? We're really curious to start doing our own studies with the men in our lives, and seeing how they're affected by the long hair versus the short hair. So if you have any stories to share, please put those in the comment section. We'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we look forward to seeing you next time.